Hey everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft video. This is a good one. Yeah, it's finally happened. The largest fix to World of Warcraft leveling ever is here. Well, I guess bar the Cataclysm stuff, I suppose, but this really is a next level thing for the game. Level scaling is in, it's on the PTR, and it really improves the game. For a long time, I've thought that one of World of Warcraft's largest problems was that it gives a terrible first impression. Sure, the world is nice and all, exploring is good, but the gameplay rapidly devolves into a mindless grind, not really allowing people to get a taste for Blizzard's class design, which is basically one of the core parts of the endgame experience, one of the reasons why people play the game. Also, people would outlevel zones really fast. That meant that any sort of exploration or story was cut off because, well, doing what you were interested in, that was sabotaged by the game's reward systems. The game basically rewarded you for not following your curiosities. This update to the game will fix both problems though. So on the one hand, you'll no longer outlevel zones, and on the other one, you are going to have proper quality gameplay as you level. But let's tackle the scaling system first. So, all the starter zones scale from 1 to 10, not that dissimilar to how things work now. Why? Well, Blizzard want these to feel like low-level zones, the type of place that, you know, it's small, you know, sleepy, dreamy little place, whatever, where your adventure kicks off from. But past that, every zone will scale to 60, or at least for the vanilla stuff. The only difference is the minimum level. You see, Blizzard still wants a big scary zone to feel that way. So, in practice, how does this work? I think the easiest way is just to give you an example. Elwyn scales from 1 to 10, Westfall scales from 10 to 60, then Red Ridge scales from 15 to 60, Duskwood 20 to 60, Northern Stranglethorn 25 to 60, and then Cape of Stranglethorn is 30 to 60. Then zones like the Searing Gorge, Blasted Lands, Badlands, etc., they're all 40 to 60. Indeed, all those sort of high-end zones are 40 to 60. You might notice, though, there's not readily available any like 35 to 60 zones here. That's not a problem, right? When you're level 35, you could go to Loch Modan and level up there if you really wanted to, because it's 10 to 60. So there is still a journey from the difficult, or from the easy areas to the difficult ones, but it's a lot less rigid now. So essentially, the game is a lot more open-ended. You can just explore. You will never stop doing a zone because the quests have turned green or grey. That'll never happen. Like, that's one of the worst things about WoW leveling gone. So that's the vanilla zones. Let's talk, though, about the other parts of the game. So, for the first two expansions, they will scale from 60 to 80, roughly. So, as an example, in Outland, Hellfire is 58 to 80, Zangarmarsh is 60 to 80, Terracore is 62 to 80, Nagrand 64 to 80, Blade's Edge is 65 to 80, and then both Netherstorm and Shadowmoon Valley are 67 to 80. And then with Northrend, we pretty much see the same pattern again, with the starter zones being 58 to 80, and then the final two zones, Storm Peaks and Icecrown, being 67 to 80. Then when we move on to Pandaria, well, we see the Jade Forest being from 80 to 90, Valley is from 81 to 90, Kunlai from 82 to 90, and so on and so forth, with the Dread Wastes being 84 to 90. Then the Cataclysm expansion zones follow a similar pattern to the Pandaria ones. What about Warlords and Legion? Well, they're unchanged, pretty much. And that's fair enough because they're both still decently intact gameplay experiences. There is one thing here that does really excite me, though. Right now, when you do, like, you know, you do 1 or 2 zones in Outland and Northrend each, and then you're 80, you do a bunch of continent hopping, the game feels disjointed and just falls to pieces. Well, with this system in place, you'd be able to journey to the Howling Fjord at level 58. If my projections are right, level all the way up to 80, pretty much, by just doing every zone on that continent. Actually exploring the continent, questing through it, getting all the lore, all of the story, properly spending time in that place. I think it's very hard to sort of fall in love with much of the current world of Warcraft because you don't get to do these things properly. You don't get to spend time there. Hopefully new players to the game will be able to head over to Northrend, as an example, and have a similar experience to what I had back in the day when I first played it, and actually go through the whole thing, get all the story, and really get immersed in it. And that's just a fantastic thing for the game. Now, there's another part, or another piece to this puzzle, enemy health. I've not tested every level bracket, but here's some examples. I have a level 23 warrior who is in Ashenvale on both live and the PTR. On live, the enemies have 592 health, they're about level 22. On PTR, the enemies are level 21 to 22-ish, but they've got 1407 health. Yeah, near double, over double. The effect in combat is wonderful. You, on live, just one-shot everything, basically. It's terrible. And this is on a character with no heirlooms. You just crush everything. On PTR, though, you get to do your full rotation, culminating with being enraged, using a raging blow, and executing the enemy. You actually get a proper taste of what it's like to play a damn Fury Warrior. This means, and this is the bit that's so key, and this is just incredible, but it means that it's similar to how it plays great at endgame, right? And that's so important for new players. I really think Blizzard have great class designs, for the most part. Actually, mostly they've got brilliant class designs, some of the best in the business. But if you just pick up the game, you'd have no idea about that. Enemies die before you get halfway through your rotation. It's just a bloody shambles. It's not fun. This causes legions of players to bounce off the game and tell their friends that it's a boring, brain-dead experience that plays like something that's 20 years old and it's rubbish. You just run around one-shotting everyone. There's no game there. Well, the amount of damage that this has done to the game over the last few years, it just must be massive. And personally, I was worried that Blizzard just sort of chucked in the level boost to get around this problem and get some more money. But no, I'm glad they've actually wised up and fixed the damn problem. Let's do another health example. So my old hunter from when I was a kid, which is level 63 and is in Hellfire, okay? The mobs around him in PTR have 12,579 health, and that's a lot more than on live. And here's the great thing, on the PTR as well, because like this character was such a damn mess, like I haven't played that hunter since hunters had a melee slot, I had loads of heirlooms on it, and to my surprise, even with the heirlooms, it played brilliantly. I was fighting enemies, the mechanics mattered, my pet was going in there and tanking. It was like I was playing a damn game. Who would have thought, right? Leveling up in World of Warcraft and it feels like you're actually playing a damn game. And I also noticed a new quest. It was a breadcrumb that I assume I got because I hit level 58 at some point, and it gave me a little option. Do you want to go to Outland or to Northrend? Which to me says that their intention is, if you level a character from 1 to 60, you can think, okay, I want to go from 60 to 80 in Northrend, 60 to 80 in Outland, and actually properly get to experience that part of the game in a way that feels close to how it was intended. Yeah. It's just great. Now, there is one potential concern here that I've seen a lot of players, like I've seen forum posts saying, oh, level up your characters now while it's still super fast, and I get that, people want new max level characters, but does anyone who just power levels up one-shotting everyone think that that's a good game? Or do they think it's just a convenient means to an end to play the good game, which is at max level? I think so much of that's just completely arse backwards in terms of how people think about parts of the game and how it should be played. I mean, if you were designing a game from the ground up now, would you have the current World of Warcraft leveling experience be a part of that? No, you wouldn't, because it's terrible. Well, with this, problem solved. Now, there is, I guess, one little thing. If you are power leveling by questing, I mean, you can still power level by dungeons. I'll talk about dungeons in a second. If you were power leveling by questing in the old way, you probably would end up just spending so much time running from X to Y, because you outlevel everything so quickly. That's probably not going to happen now. And because of that, while I'm sure it will take longer for 1 to 60, it should be like a less annoying experience because you're not just spending so much time traveling. So even though the time to kill on enemies is higher and you're spending more time in each zone, because all of the quests in that zone give you a full amount of XP and you're not spending ages running from place to place, I don't think it's going to be as bad as a lot of people seem to think, because you'll be getting that, you'll have your 45 or 50% heirloom experience. Leveling's not going to take a crazy amount of time. The difference is the game's actually going to play well while you're leveling, it would seem, which is just fantastic. And then, of course, for the dungeons scale in the same way, basically. So the dungeon leveling brackets are humongous. This should be great for getting groups, which I think is definitely a very nice thing if you do want to power level up in the dungeons. And yeah, they're going to benefit from that enhanced gameplay experience that we see across the rest of the game. Overall, I think, is this the most exciting change for people who currently play the game? Maybe you're like me and you've got one of every class at max level. Okay, I'll level up some new allied races whenever they come out, but I don't think it's the most exciting thing in the world for us, because we already get to play the really good World of Warcraft at endgame. But now that has been extended throughout a lot more of the game, so many more people are going to come into the game, and sure, it'll take them a bit longer to hit max level than it would take them now, but because the game's fun, they'll actually hit max level instead of getting bored and quitting very, very, very early on into the experience. And that's why this is a humongous win for the game and a brilliant move from the team. So, that's my thoughts and initial experiences with the level revamp in World of Warcraft. They've pretty much nailed it. Yeah, it's great. So, thank you very much for watching this video. Let me know what you think down in those comments, and with that, I'll see you next time.